Here's why you're not getting bit in the winter. As we all know, the winter bite can be really difficult, and even more so if you're like here in Massachusetts where everything is frozen and you've got to go ice fishing. But if you're in a state where in the winter your lakes don't necessarily freeze over, but the water temps do drop pretty much, the bass fishing can get really tough, and you might be scratching your head of why can't I get a bite? And the reason why you're not getting your bite does the bass fishing can get really tough, and you might be scratching your head of why can't I get a bite? It doesn't come down to the size of your bait. A lot of people catch a lot of big bass in the winter on a big wedge tail swim bait like this, and a lot of people catch bass on a smaller swim bait like this. So what's the difference here? The main difference is about speed. In the winter, in these colder months where the water's colder, bass especially are cold-blooded animals. Their metabolisms and their energy reserves are based on how cold that water is. Their blood doesn't generate any heat. So if the water's cold, their blood's cold, they're not moving much, they don't need to eat that much. But they still need to eat. And for fishing in the winter, the most important thing is that we have to present baits that look like an easy meal for the bass. We need them to think that their amount of effort put into chasing down this bait worth it in terms of the amount of calories they're going to get. That's why these big swim baits work in the winter. You fish them very slowly by a bass and it looks like a fish that really isn't thinking about anything or is slowly dying. And the bass looks at it and says, hey, if that's a real fish and I eat this, that's a lot of calories, especially if it comes right in front of my face and I just have to move an inch to try to eat it. The payoff is big for them. And if your waters are really cold, like about to freeze, not only should we be dragging these paddle tails really slowly across the bottom, we also need to be working in pauses. I can't tell you the number of times in cold water when I fish a paddle tail and just paddle along really slowly, just let it sit there, and then like I forget about it, look at my phone, scroll some TikToks, and then when I go to move my paddle tail again, there's some weight on it, and that's a bass. That's also the same reason why a jig works so well in the winter. We can drag a jig across the bottom and also work in those long pauses. And of course, when we're talking about long pauses, we can't forget a jerkbait, right? That's why jerkbait is so deadly. It's not the jerking action that gets bass to eat. Yes, sometimes is the reaction bite, but it looks like a bait that is dying, right? It's gonna work quickly and it's like freaking out, and then it just pauses. And that's great because it'll give bass the time to come up and eat it. And if you're in like a warmer state where the water's not really freezing, but it's still cold enough to affect the bass's metabolism, then we can kind of change things up. Glide baits like these are a really great option, right? Really letting these baits glide out slowly and then letting them sit. A suspending glide bait is perfect for this. So in cold water, if you want to get more bites, work in those pauses, look at your phone, check TikTok, really let your bait sit. So what are you waiting for? Get out there.